Доброго дня, шановні колеги. Вітаю вас.
Good afternoon, dear colleagues. Let me welcome you from Turin, from the European Education Facility, European Training Foundation. If Please write in the chat what town or city you are from. My name is Olena Bech. Let me introduce myself. I work for the European Training Foundation. I'm a coordinator of the project, which is connected to teaching and learning, innovative teaching and learning in ETF. And I'm glad to welcome you to this webinar on competence-based assessment. In our webinar, we can see our partners, ETF, EFTA, EVBB, OEAP, and I'm glad to meet the new colleagues and to see the colleagues I know. And we are also preparing to our meeting in Turin in March. We shall be speaking about this at this webinar. You can change the language at your panel. If you are not speaking, please unmute your mic if you do not agree for recording. And then you can disable your camera, but for us it is better to see you. So if you can and if you will, then please make your camera on. You can see the global sign and you can use it to change the language into Ukrainian or English. If you have any questions, please write them in our chat. Our webinar will be 2 hours long. It will end at 12 o'clock Kiev time, at 12 o'clock Turin time, and 1 o'clock p.m. Kiev time. We can not, unfortunately, have a longer time for our discussion, but we shall introduce you to the main concepts and tasks and provide you with a short outline picture what European practices we shall be learning in essence when you come to our offline training. Today we shall introduce the 3 educational practices from the 3 European countries. I'd like to tell you what is the main goal of this webinar. As you understand from our invitation letters, that our webinar 33 persons were invited to our webinar and they will take part in our study visit to Greece. From the very beginning of the full-scale invasion of Russian Federation to Ukraine, many international organizations started their support. Many countries supported us, and ETF as well as an international institution. So we contacted all our partners and asked for the main urgent needs, and based on this public consultation, the project has been started on micro-credentials implementations, which was identified as one of the most important projects which can be used for IDPs. IDPs can learn some programs. They can they must adapt at new places and to find new jobs. And at the same time, many enterprises lost their employees because they flee to other countries or went to the front line to combat, to defend our motherland. So micro credentials were decided to be a tool which we will be using in education, and a very um, strong group of specialists was organized on our side, where the educational institutions and the enterprises work together. This team has already developed micro-credential certificates, and based on this, we started training and we continue this training now, but in parallel, as you know, Ariane and Anatoly Garmash has been working with you in developing qualification systems, and in all these lines of our activities, we have identified the main element of our work. There's the competence-based assessment methodologies, and there are very many approaches. Many international institutions share their experience and lessons learned, and various methodologies and so on. It was understandable that it is very important and useful to look into this tool and to learn it in detail. Our partner in this work, starting from 2022, has been the French Association of Adult Education, AFPA, and at today's webinar, competence-based assessment, we will have two other partners, two other European associations, EVBB and OEP, who are also associations of professional and vocational education training. So we shall outline today those experience which will be introduced to you in detail in Athens, Greece, and we shall also speak about the next stages in this project which we are implementing now. So I will give the floor to Anatoly Garmash, who will tell us more about the focus of these three presentations, which we will hear today. Dear colleagues, good morning. Today we shall listen to the three presentations. The first will be from Finland. We shall listen to the practical application of assessment in pet and adult learning, then to the experience from France, AFP, assessing blocks of competences in France, and the Polish experience, VCC micro-credentials in competence-based assessment system in Portland. All these experiences are different. The Finnish experience is focused on assessing model by model of vocational training. We have already studied this experience in 2019 in Ukraine when we have developed the programs of competence-based learning. And in these recommendations, we also touched the competence-based assessment, and such recommendations have been prepared by one of our participants, Zoya Parfenuk, director of the Center of VAT in Ivano-Frankivsk region. As concerns French educational experience, we shall hear today about the block of competences assessment principle. The standards of assessment are based on vocational standards, and single approach is developed. We have been using this experience in Ukraine in 2019. We have prepared the methodological recommendations in the framework of development of qualification centers. And the last experience, but not the least, the assessment by macro credentials, which will get to know from Polish colleagues. It is used for higher education as well, and for vocational training system. So all these types and methods are based on common principles of assessment. Assessment might be competence-based, reliable, valid, and transparent. And it must be objective, non-biased. So today we shall focus on two assessment aspects. The first is various systems of qualifications, assessment by vocational qualifications, by competencies and marker credentials, and how to implement the principles of assessment. This will be also in focus. Thank you, Mr. Garmash. I will not be making long introductory speech. I will give the floor to Alex Lenore. He will have 15 minutes for his presentations, and after that we can have a little bit of comments and question and answer session. I see that all participants are online. I would like to introduce Mr. Alex Lenoir, who will be speaking about the French assessment experience. He is the director of project at AFPA, the National Agency of Vocational Education for Adults. He has been working as a trainer, as an engineer of educational projects, as a manager of educational projects. He is responsible for adult training projects with the Ministry of Labor and Social Integration of France, as a vice president of EVTA. He is responsible for the support in the EU and such partner countries as our country. We are giving the floor to Alex Lenoir. So you have your 15 minutes for presentation.
Okay, thank you, Leon, for this introduction, and good morning to all participants and speakers. Let me also introduce AFPA a little bit. As you said, on our French National Agency for Adult Vocational Training. introduce AFPA as a major operator in vocational training for adults in France and member of public service employment as well. AFPA, it's more than 155,000 trainees a year, just to give you an overview. There are job seekers and employees, and an internal network of more than 120 training centers spread over all the French territory, perfectly equipped with professional equipment and vocational environment. And it's about more than 3,500 trainers that are working daily at AFPA. Moreover, AFPA is an invaluable partner of the French Ministry of Labor for more than 80 years by designing and implementing occupational and assessment standards for the ministry, certification qualification programs, assessment tools. And for the Ministry of Labor, it's about where it concerns the design of more than 270 diplomas. We call it titre professionnel in France. And last but not least, but Elena, you mentioned it during the introduction phase, AFPA cooperates, of course, with the major VET European associations, Vice Presidency of European Vocational Training Association, EFTA. We have the pleasure to have Julia at the end of this webinar, and board member of European Association of Institute for Vocational Training, EVBB, and we have the pleasure as well to have Theodore to conclude this webinar. In EU VET context, these two EU associations work closely with DG Employment and Social Affairs of the EU Commission and can provide support to the EU institution, and that's one of the reasons why I'm here with you today. But to introduce the topic of this webinar and the forthcoming working group in Athens, we have decided to begin by presenting a global vision overview of a competence-based certification system using an example from France. So let me share with you an overview of the process and methodology we're using at AFPA in order to define occupational assessment standards related to the vocational qualification system of the French Ministry of Labor. And during this presentation, if you don't mind, I will try to highlight as well how professional sectors are definitely key players in the process. But let's dive right now to the process and methodology parts. You can see on this schematic representation, process and methodology are linked to a systemic approach of jobs based on constant monitoring of labor markets in order to understand its requirements and its evolutions. Qualification system must be frequently updated. In France, it means that every 3-5 years, we have to re-investigate and analyze professional activities to identify provided and required skills and create an effective validation system. By proceeding to this update, we focus on the framework of collective agreements on working condition and occupational health and safety risk at work, on professional mobility. But maybe let us see how it works in practice. Next slide, please. Thank you. So first of all, there's an AFPA unit, a team of experts, works on the anticipation of technological and economic trends, work occupational trends, emerging skills, and new techniques and technologies. These teams works very closely with the professional sectors and with sectoral labor market observatories in order to produce for the ministry documents based on prospective monitoring and job analysis by professional sector, by occupation, or on transversal topics that reflect technical, technological, or other changes in the workplace environment. This document also reports on labor and skill competencies needs by considering job offers and demands. They contribute to fit the job analysis by identifying or of emerging competencies and the evolution of future skills, need, and employment. So this is more than 100 FPA experts in job skills analysis, and they are all technicians and specialists of the jobs they analyze, of course, that work with the professional sectors to keep the qualification up to date through methodological job analysis system. This team conducts professional sector surveys by analyzing on the job and in real life companies, and it's very, very important on the job and in real life companies, professional activities, tasks, skills, knowledge, vocational performance criteria, and so on. And through this modeling process and specific representative sectors actor sample as well, we mention the activities and skills that are most common to all the job analyzed, while excluding those that are too specific or representing infrequent kind of organizations, or a very specific technology, or one that is obsolete, for instance. As we are focusing, and Anatoly just mentioned this approach in this in the introduction phase, as we are focusing on the competence-based approach, our experts want to know what workers already do, how they do, why do they do so, what are the safety rules, what are the tools used, whom are they collaborated with, and so on and so forth. And this in-depth analysis make it possible to take a dynamic picture of the evolution of the job through the identification of the profile of the job holder, the task he performs, the activities implemented to perform this task and their context. And here as well, the expertise of professional sectors actors is crucial for the analysis and for the work. So, and we can say that moreover, the result of this job analysis is shared with experts of professional sectors and social partners during specific working groups all along the process. And by focusing on key aspects of skills and career development and trying to strengthen links with other national qualification systems, they aim to build or update a representation of a standard occupation. So technically, what we do after that, we then produce the occupational standards describing the activities, the task performed, and of course, all the knowledge, skills, abilities required to carry them out, as well as the context in which they are implemented. And if we want to just make a quick link with micro-certification, the occupational standards are designed in such a way as to allow access to the qualification in stages, step by step. So our experts are therefore seeking to identify blocks of competencies, bloc de compétences in France, that can be considered as a kind of micro-certificates in the methodological sense, but which in this case represent proven employability on the labor market. And it's another very, very important point I want to highlight. It means that the block of competencies are directly linked to the labor market requirements. So each block of competencies corresponds to an official certificate of professional competencies, enabling a person to demonstrate their ability to be employed to work one or more professional activities that are specific to a job. And in these blocks, performance criteria are defined for each competence. They are corresponding to the performance expected by employers in companies. And Just to conclude this part of my presentation, sorry, just keep in mind that occupational standards are therefore not built on the basis of a training program, but on job analysis. And if we reach the next step, the left part of the schematic picture you have on the screen, this step consists in designing the assessment procedure. So our experts try to define a work-based or simulated work-based assessment system in which candidates have to prove by doing that they have the ability to perform professional activities regarding the required occupational standards. This is the main method used in the competence assessment system we are working for the Ministry of Labor. So we need to refer here again to the expertise of professional actors to imagine the best work-based scenario for skills competence assessment. We then have to think about the feasibility of the system, looking at how long it will take to set up the test, the cost of the materials and equipment required, and so on. Sometimes we have to rework the situation as originally envisaged. And to the extent that competencies cannot totally assess by doing, by demonstrating, supplementary methods can be used, such as technical interview with the candidate or questionnaire. Finally, we create files and technical assessment tools intended for the certification center to organize and implement the examination session. And during this assessment session, the examination board is exclusively composed of professionals from companies. Its role is to assess the candidate's performance on the basis of the assessment criteria set out in the assessment reference tool. These criteria are, of course, directly linked to the performance criteria described in the occupational standards. Maybe just a point, a special feature of this system is that it is the same assessment for applicants' competence for candidates that achieve a vocational training program, or for people wishing to validate their vocational experience through the national system of recognition and accreditation of prior learning. And to conclude this part of the presentation, just keep in mind that assessment standards are totally oriented to a demonstration of what is expected in a professional environment for a person with an initial level of operational competencies, and that competencies are assessed by professionals. Finally, the representative of professional sectors are still involved at the end of the process through a national commission stipulated by law in France that has to validate this national occupation and assessment standards in order that they can be officially recognized within the qualification certification system and by the labor market, of course, and the register in the French National Directory of Professional Qualification. So to conclude definitively this time and to provide food for thought for the coming weeks, it will be interesting to think about how to make micro certificates official references in the landscape of vocational training and certification qualification and of course in a national qualification framework. And this is one of our current areas of reflection at the moment at AFPA. So thank you for your attention, and thank you for letting me sharing this experience of AFPA. Thank you.
Я хочу подякувати Алексу. І як ви бачите,
Thank you very much, Mr. Alex. From your presentation, you can see that we are giving you the outline the main components which will be presented at the offline seminar in Essence. There you will see more case studies. Here we provide only 3 short presentations, and in offline mode you will see you will have the possibility to compare the experiences in Ukraine and other European countries. If you have any questions or comments as concerns Mr. Lenore presentation, you can now raise your hand or write the question in the chat.
Але якщо б було щось незрозуміло, хотіли б якесь уточнення отримати, то, будь ласка, дайте
If you
нам.
would like to have clarifications, please let us know. So there is a question to Alex. Rodion Kalishka, do you want to ask the question personally? Please use the mic. Thank you.
Switch to English. Glad to see everybody, and thank you very much for this presentation, and thank you, Alex, specifically for the beginning of this quite interesting and difficult and definitely needed topic for Ukraine, especially more or less well understood the approaches and the scheme, the general scheme of the assessment and general procedure of it, but probably maybe not this time, maybe in Greece. But I would be very happy to understand a bit more on the assessors' requirements, qualification, and training, because you said a very crucial thing, at least one, which I would like to also to cite, is that the assessment is based not on the learning process and learning standards, but only on the requirements and analysis of the job, and which is very crucial because what we have to understand in Ukraine at the very beginning of this, on the assessment system establishment, is that the assessor need to be at least 1 or maybe 2 level higher than a person who is assessed, and which means that the training and the requirements to this person should be higher. The training should be permanent or quite regular. That's why it would be very interesting to understand how they are trained, who finances all the system, and what are the requirements for such persons. Thank you very much.
Дуже дякую, Родіоне, рада бачити. Алекс, прошу.
Thank you very much. Alex is given the floor, so we have several minutes for this answer.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you for these inputs and the global question about the system. And as you said, it's very, very interesting because the question are crucial, as you said, from the organization of the main system. But as you said, I think it's something that we will work during the walkthrough more deeply and technically speaking during the workshop in Latin. But just to give you some part of the answers about the qualifications of the assessors. The system just refer to the experience of the professional, not about their qualification. We don't, the system don't ask to prove that you have diplomas in such field of activity, or you have 1 or 2 or 3 level up, as you mentioned. But the system just look what kind of experience do you have and the length of the experience. So you can become an assessor in the system if you have at least 3 years of experience, for example, and I'll show you in Athens how the system works. And of course, there's a kind of training program, short training program to become assessors during the assessment for the assessment competence assessment session. But I will show you as well, because we are running out of time for the webinar, and there's my other colleague wants to highlight their experience in their own country. But yes, this is one of the topics I will show you during the workshop in Athens.
Дякую, Алекс. Ми поки що знаходимося абсолютно в часі.
Thank you, Alex. So we are following our agenda, and I would like to ask our Ukrainian colleagues that participate in our webinar to note the questions that they have about what they want to ask during the seminar in Athens. And after the event, we will send several questions, and you will be able to complete the form about the questions, what problems you have, and what matters you want to discuss with us. And now I would like to give the floor to Mary Janssen, and many people know her, and she is from Omnia Education Partnership, and this is an innovative company that works in professional development, educational development programs, and development of entrepreneurship. And they are working in the sphere of professional qualifications for many years, and qualification quality issues are considered. And Marvi Jason is the member of the global crisis group concerning education, and I would like to give the floor to our dear colleagues in order to present the matters we are going to discuss further in Athens. So please, you are given the floor.
Thank you, Olena. Dear colleagues, greetings from a very snowy Finland. It seems that we are being snowed in today, but it's my pleasure to share our experience about practical applications of competence-based assessment in vet and adult learning and how we carry this out in Finland. Next slide, please. So first, a couple of words, and you can go on to, so we have all the text. A couple of words about Omnia Group so that you can put us on the map. So Omnia is a joint authority of education in the Espoo region. So it's non-profit, municipally owned, and we are the international commercial arm. So on an annual basis, Omnia has around 13,000 people enrolled in vocational qualifications. So it's one of the largest providers in Finland, and of course works in multiple sectors. And on top of the vocational qualifications, there are about 17,000 people enrolling in professional development and upskilling courses, including teacher training, and then another 20,000 taking liberal adult education courses. So around 1,200 staff members. Annual budget, which comes from the Ministry of Education and Culture, is 95 million euros. And what is really important is the work we do internationally. So there are 123 nationalities were enrolled last year. Omnia is a center of vocational excellence in three different networks, and a UNEVOC innovation hub. Last but not least, there are around 3,000 public-private partnerships. So Omnia works with a multitude of employers in this area, and it is exactly for the assessment and basically to ensure that the students have the right competence from the working life's point of view, that those partnerships are really important. Next slide, please. We have had the pleasure to work with Ukraine for some time. So OEP has led a Finnish consortium for the Finnish National Agency, EDUFI, for EU for Skills. And prior to the war, the focus areas were curriculum development, teacher training, and school management training. Basically after what happened, the upskilling, of course, was really important on the agenda. And as a part of EU for Skills, we designed and implemented 33 online courses to support the rebuilding and to upskill people for future needs. And those courses are now on the ministry platform. So please, if you are not aware of them, make use of them. And we hope that we can support you and your learners through these courses. Next slide, please. To talk about the Finnish VET system, I thought that I would highlight some of the things that happen on the national level and what the VET providers are basically responsible for. So on a national level, we have 160 vocational competence-based qualifications, which are divided into 3,000 modules. Now, we've had competency-based VET for about 15 years in Finland. So basically, assessment together with the working life has been something that we have been practicing for quite some time. And on the national level, the modules are then divided into learning outcomes. And now when we're talking about micro-credentials, so each of these learning outcomes can be treated as a micro-credential. Don't exactly know the number, but we're talking tens of thousands. And on a national level, we have the competence requirements and also the assessment process. And all of the assessment data is fed into the EduFi national database. So what do the VET providers do? They design their own curriculum, basically according to the learning outcomes that must be demonstrated, and then they blend the core and the professional studies, for instance, with sustainable skills. So in Finland, basically, if you look at the core reason why VET exists, it is, of course, to educate professionals, but it is also to create jobs through entrepreneurship and to give the competence for further studies. So basically, the VET providers also are in charge of the quality assurance with the national, basically very transparent reporting system and the diverse partnerships, of which the public-private partnerships with working life are, of course, among the most important. Next slide, please. So the structure of Finnish VET programs, how it all works, upon enrollment, we do recognition of prior learning, which is mandatory. And based on that, the study times can vary quite a lot. And basically, all of the qualifications have both compulsory and elective modules, and then the cross-cutting skills. And then the learning and assessing of professional competencies and soft skills is actually a flexible process that happens throughout the study. Basically, if you look at the diverse environments, it can be at the workplace, which is number one in importance for us, but also at school, different workshops, labs, simulations, online through projects. So basically, there is no one size fits all, apart from the fact that it is the competence we are assessing, not the theory separately, but really it is about how we can apply the theory and the knowledge that is gained in practical situations. And that is the core of our assessment in practice. And then once everything has been assessed and everybody is satisfied that the national requirements are met, then the student receives the diploma. So for some, it can take more time, and for some, it can take less time. Next slide, please. So if we look at the learning and assessment process, it builds on the national qualification requirements within the different learning environments. So of course, in the classroom, there are theoretical principles, knowledge, core skills. There might be some theoretical exams to ensure that the student is ready for work-based learning and also for competence assessment. We can have simulations and different environments in the schools. So for instance, Omnia has a shop, it has a working restaurant, it offers different services to the public. So we talk about open campuses and actually mixing the real life and the working environments already in the vocational schools. So all the vocational schools can actually sell products and services to the real public. Then, of course, we have the actual work-based learning, which can be either a formal apprenticeship or then it is a work-based learning contract. And then the final competence assessment is something that the teacher does, and he or she is in charge of making sure that all the learning outcomes are met and the student has completed the full program that has been designed for this particular student. Next, please. this is the most important slide of my slide set. So I want you to understand that in Finland, everybody is a stakeholder in the competence assessment process, underlining that the student has a really important role. Of course, the workplace mentor, the mentor is the one who does the assessment at the workplace here, is very important. And then often it is a team of teachers working together with the different modules, learning outcomes, etc. So it is actually everybody pitching in and all working together, understanding their own responsibilities and roles. So the student prepares according to the personal plan, gathers the documentation and evidence in a portfolio, does self-assessment. So for us, the assessment is also a learning process for the student, and then reflects on his or her basically abilities compared to the national standards and the learning outcomes, which are then displayed. The workplace mentor and assessor is always a trained person. So all the VET providers offer training for workplace mentors, and it is one form of collaboration that we have. The training, of course, is important to become a mentor, and it is an official certification process. So basically at the workplace, they mentor the students, and then they do the assessment according to the jointly agreed plan. So there's a plan always which is signed by the student, the workplace mentor, and the teacher who will be overviewing and supervising this particular assessment process. So for the teachers, if we look at any qualification, they will do an overall assessment plan for students, what usually is assessed, when and where. But like I said, this can vary on an individual basis depending on the recognition of prior learning which has been done. So every student has their individual plan. It is the teacher's job to support the workplace mentors, to visit on an ongoing basis, and also to be in touch in different forms and ways. We have multiple platforms to do that, and make all the practical arrangements for assessment, check that the assessment requirements are fulfilled, and then make the final grading decisions. When we're talking about what we call a basic vocational qualification, we have rating from 1 to 5. You'll see that in a moment. And the further and specialist qualification, so continuing vet, is actually pass or fail. Next slide, please. So here is a little bit about the assessment methods. So primarily every assessment in practice at the workplace, that is our #1 rule. But of course, for instance, when we had COVID, we had to find more creative ways to look at assessment and what all could be done. The aim is to demonstrate the competence as a part of comprehensive work tasks. So basically, we understand that work is a process and that you demonstrate your competence throughout the process. There could be individually agreed supplementary demonstrations if everything cannot be done at the workplace, and also projects and any other data will count at the end of the day. So basically, the text in the middle is from our national guidelines, and it says that the student demonstrates the competence in practical tasks, for instance, here by working in a tourism enterprise or organization. So we always mandate where it must happen, and then basically what kind of tasks are to be assessed in this particular contract. Usually, for instance, if a student is studying for approximately a 3-year program, they will do maybe between 4 to 6 rotations in different workplaces. So like I said, it is an ongoing process and the teacher is responsible for that. Next slide, please. So this is an example of the grading scale used by the teachers and the workplace mentors. So we have the name of the qualification, the name of the module, how many competence points it is, the national code, and then the competence requirements. And then on the right, you will see the different grading examples. So satisfactory 1 and 2, good grades 3 and 4, and then excellent 5. So you can see that that the requirements between 1 and 5 are different. So basically, if you are a level 5 student, you will be able to do things more independently. You will be able to consider changing factors in the environment, etc. But all of our qualifications are built basically on this sort of standard and framework. And this is something that both the workplace mentors and the teachers and the students are all familiar with. So everybody knows it is very transparent what will happen. Next slide, please. And just to conclude, a couple of words about the documentation and filing. So like I said, the teacher is responsible for filing everything in the vet school's electronic database. And from that, everything is fed into the national system. So then we usually have, of course, the student identification data. And then we collect all the work-based learning assessment statements from the company. And also, if there are any comments by the teacher or the student, and any related supplemental grades or material, information of other possibly used assessment methods. And then the final grade of the qualification, basically, when they all add up as is required, that leads to the graduation and the diploma. And of course, basically, we want our students to be proud professionals. So it is not just the paper that you get, which they are holding here, but they really see the outcome of their work and they can say that we built this house. And I am truly a professional. I have shown my competence in practice. I have work experience and I understand what are the requirements for me on a national level and what the workplaces basically require of me. And that concludes my presentation. Hopefully this was useful, and we will hopefully see you all in Greece and then continue the discussion there. Thank you.
Дуже дякую, Мерві. І як ви бачите,
Thank you very much, Mary. And as you may see, there are a lot of different interesting topics for discussion. I see the question about mentors and how they are trained. And we are given the floor to our dear colleague. Thank you, dear colleagues. I'm really glad that I see familiar faces and some people are new to me. We are dealing with the issues of assessment. We have big experience, but there are still questions that are still with us, and we need to improve our system of assessment. And this is important: who in enterprise, at workplace, who is able to help these people to get their qualification. So we understand that these people are very qualified in their profession, but it's a special skill to transmit, to give to other people knowledge and understanding. So these people should know the curricula, they should know a lot of things, and we are really interested in the experience of Finland. And do you have some requirements to the mentor concerning his professional level? He should be at a rather high level, and also the requirements concerning his involvement in educational process and the process of training. So is there any requirements and to this person? And maybe you have some institution, some center where these people are trained, because in Soviet times, in the Soviet Union, we had some centers for training these people. So do you have such centers? We thank you. And we see other questions in the chat. we are writing these questions down and we will prepare the answer later on. So please, Marvi, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Basically, all the vet providers are responsible for training, ongoing training for the workplace mentor. So we used to require for them to come to the vet providers' premises for a number of days. So it was very heavy and they didn't want to always invest, especially small companies could not have, somebody gone for days. But nowadays, it's pretty much, let's say, at least 99% online training. So we have national level online courses, and then we have vet providers also offering courses. Of course, it's possible to go to a workplace and also do the training there if there are a number of mentors to be trained. So we want to be really flexible and support working life in this particular task. We don't want to make it difficult for them. So that's number one, especially when we're talking about small and medium companies. They can't invest a lot of time. So it is our role to support them, not to require them to, go through the hoops and loops. We are a service provider here. And basically, typically the mentor and the assessor is a person who is the immediate supervisor of the student. So typically, of course, will be somebody who has a good work experience from the field. And what we do, we make it very simple for them, as in what will happen and what will be assessed. So we have a contract, and always in the contract, we go through that when the student starts at the workplace, and we say that, okay, these are the issues that we want you to particularly concentrate on. This is what the assessment will be. So again, it's very transparent. Everybody knows what will be assessed, how, when, where, etc. And we don't bother them with the full curriculum. They don't need to know the scope of the 3-year studies if they are, addressing 1 or 2 modules. So again, keep it simple, keep it very transparent. Everybody knows what's happening. And actually, I met with Irina Shumik last week. There was a delegation visiting Finland, and we gave them a copy of an example of one of the contracts for work-based learning. So I'm hoping that she can share it with her colleagues, and we will definitely do so in Athens. I know that we are on a strict schedule here, so I thank you for your questions. We look forward to sharing more information with you, and all the best. And it's always great to work with our Ukrainian colleagues. Thank you.
Дуже дякую, Мерві, дуже дякую, пані Ольга. І хочу сказати, що ми готуємо матеріали для вас, тобто у нас буде більше кейсів, як я сказала.
So we are preparing materials for you, and we will have more answers to your questions. And now from Finland, we are going to Poland. We do not know what in Poland the weather is now. So I would like to say that it's not a coincidence that he represents this issue. He is an important specialist in the field. So this is about the certification of professional qualifications and other issues. And Marek participated in many international programs concerning quality of education and qualification, and also cooperation with web designers, and concerning virtual reality to simplify the process of learning and assessment. So we were speaking about it in Ukraine in cooperation with the International Labour Organization and with the ministry, and for us this will be really interesting. So we will give the floor to Marek now for his presentation.
I'm Marek Marczak, and I'm responsible for IT systems as well as international projects. And here with me is Edyta Migałka, who is Director of Communication, but she's an expert on the Polish national qualification system. She knows all about it. She's the number one person to go to whenever we have any problem, issue, question. So any question that pertains to the system, she's the best expert here. Okay, so starting from a few words on who we are. We are a private entity. That's important to remember. We are a foundation, and our primary role is to validate and certify qualifications which are required in non-formal sector of education. So we do not come from the formal system. We are not a governmental body or agency, and we deal explicitly with something that is called market qualifications. So we really work from the bottom up. That is, we talk to employers, we talk to companies, we talk to the experts in the field. We explore new emerging qualifications. We are trying to create them, describe them in the best way that we can, and possibly register it into our national system. We cooperate with training companies and we accredit training companies and offer them a kind of full package. We offer them training materials, all the tools that they need. We also offer them our accredited trainers and our validators, examiners, to make sure that everything meets the highest possible standards. As for the number of certificates, currently we have issued 120,000 certificates in general. Those that pertain to the national qualification system, it's about 8,000 certificates. So just to let you know. And another thing, we quite recently we have a lot of refugees from Ukraine, and we also train Ukrainian students. We have also validated and certified a lot of Ukrainian participants in the last year, especially. So that's about us in general. Could we go to the next slide, please? So the official competence-based system in Poland, we have something that is called National Integrated Qualification System. That
У нас є інтегрована система.
In all post-communist countries, we had the same problem. When communism collapsed, vocational training, vocational schools really fell apart. And there were no, I would say, or very little good standards and methods of supervision and making sure that, that the highest quality standards are met. So the answer to that was creating this integrated qualification system. And it is the system that has both formal, non-formal qualification, all sorts. And I will talk about that in a moment. Thanks to this, we have the possibility to recognize officially learning outcomes, which are obtained in non-formal education system. There are supervision bodies that make sure that the standards are met. And also, it provides a vehicle to compare qualifications which are obtained in Poland to other qualifications obtained in Europe, because the levels in this integrated qualification systems are exactly the same as in the European qualifications framework. So it maps perfectly one-to-one onto that. If we could go to another slide. Now, that's the structure of integrated qualification system. I will, of course, not discuss that in detail. I will just mention that the part that we are, it's the qualifications, and we have market qualifications, right, in yellow. So this is what we do. They are partial qualifications, because full qualifications are the qualifications which are offered in formal system of education. That is, schools offer full qualifications like a 3-year training. We are focused on trainings which last approximately 90, 120 hours.
Shorter.
Yeah, they are much shorter, just to give people the skills that are necessary for them in order to be able to work in a specific job. And we are also not offering regulated qualifications. These are reserved for special bodies, special organizations. And of course, well, there are all sorts of entities like external entities of quality assurance that each institution has for each qualification, and they supervise, they monitor. If they think that something is not working properly, they will report and so on. So that's the quality assurance here. And each qualification, before it is registered, it has to go through a very complex process. So I will not really discuss that. But it is discussed by stakeholder councils, different trade organizations, and experts, and so you really have to prove that it's valid and it's needed and it's good quality, because otherwise it doesn't get registered. Okay, so if we could go to another slide. Well, these are just examples of different qualifications that we have managed to register. These levels, like European qualifications framework, right? It's the level of the national qualifications framework, European qualifications framework, that these qualifications are at. So as you can see, they come from a very, very broad spectrum, and that's basically how we work. We work as broadly as we possibly can. If you wonder how that is possible, we simply cooperate with different experts, right? So if we think that a qualification is a good idea, we contact experts, we start collaborating with them, and we start working on a qualification. In that way, we do not really limit ourselves as far as the scope of the qualification is concerned. Could we go to another slide, please? This is what our certificate, because if people get a qualification, this is what our certificate looks like. We have a level of national qualifications framework. So each official document in Poland, as far as certificates are concerned, school certificates, they come with this sign. So the level of national qualifications framework. So you can easily compare the levels of different qualifications in that way. Another slide, please. Yeah, and this is where we come to micro credentials, right? So the micro-credential system that we are working on, it's still not operating, but we hope to be able to launch it by the end of February. So hopefully in Athens, there will be a possibility to show it, how it works really on a live system. We have developed micro-credentials from the technical point of view in Open Badge 2.0 and 3.0 standard. Now, this is quite important because this system offers a possibility to make sure to verify 100% who is the issuer, who is the recipient. The credential comes in a graphic file. So a graphic file has the metadata, which if you put it into the validator, it can decode all the information. You can also put on a link, right? Display the whole set of information regarding a qualification in the form of a web page. It can also be placed in a social media like LinkedIn, in an iframe that simply displays a graphic representation of the badge, of the credential. And the micro Open Badge 3.0, as far as we know, it will be the first Open Badge 3.0 operable on an international level. At least I haven't seen a working Open Badge 3.0 validator. So this is how it works. Okay, could we go to another slide? Now, how our qualifications map onto micro-credentials, how we are going to work. Now, each qualification is contains skill sets. So it's defined by means of skill sets. There are usually like 3 or 4 skill sets. And these skill sets have learning outcomes. So each set of qualifications has learning outcomes, and learning outcomes are verified by the so-called criteria of verification. So what we are going to do, we are going to issue a micro-credential for each skill set that people will obtain. In that way, if somebody, let's say, manages to validate positively just one skill set and the other 2 not, then they will get a micro-credential for this one skill set specifically. Otherwise, how it works currently without micro-credentials, it's either passed or not passed. So in that way, we'll enable people to get some sort of recognition for their achievements. Also, in the slide, you have explanation, an example for a graphic design, what a skill set for the learning outcome and criteria of verification could be, right? This skill set will translate directly onto micro-credentials. Of course, it's possible to issue micro-credentials for each learning outcome, but that would lead to issuing tens of thousands of micro-credentials. And for the moment, we will be issuing micro-credentials for the sets, not for the learning outcomes. Could we go to another slide, please? Now, how that is going to work? Well, basically, we have an LMS, learning management system, which people log onto, and they take the theoretical part, because each qualification is divided into 2 parts. There's the theory and there's practice. So theory is like a test which they click on the learning platform, they get immediately the result of the test. And then there's a practical part, and it depends really on the specific module, what it looks like. So it is assessed, it will be assessed in the system. On the platform, the assessors will simply decide if a person passes or fails. And once they complete the evaluation, that will go to another system, which will just check for the skill sets approved, and it will issue badges, these micro-credentials, to each user. And in that way, they can immediately have these micro-credentials, and to share them on social media, share them in their e-portfolios, resumes, wherever they need to. So yeah, could we go to another slide, please? Well, that's the idea of what a badges backpack could look like. Of course, graphically, it will be different because this is just a mock sample. So we are still working on the graphical side of these, but this is what we are working on currently. So it will have the gold, silver, and bronze badges, and the gold ones will be for full qualifications, and the silver for skill sets, so kind of micro-credentials, and also there will be bronze badges for participants' people's own achievements. So that's the... Yes, and also there will be another category for virtual reality, and I will talk about virtual reality when we have the film presented in a moment. Okay, so could we go to another slide? Well, that's an example of a badge. So the information about the badge, when it was issued, who issued the badge, what type of qualification that is, what is the name, what is the list of learning outcomes, what are the skill sets. So in the form of silver badges, because awarding the gold the gold badge, automatically will also grant the silver badges to go with it.
Marek, this is Olena. I would like to remind that we have only 2 minutes left.
Okay.
The overall time.
Sorry. Okay, so
time.
let's maybe go to the film. Okay. So if you could kindly put on the film.
In this case, you will not have time for hearing questions.
Mm-hmm. Okay, but it's really, I think it's worthwhile to see that, because what you can see is the training. So people specifically do the construction joinery fitting, but the same thing is translated into the virtual reality. So they can train, they can perform different tasks in virtual reality. So you can see the real process of training, how they are trained, and also how they practice things in the virtual reality system. Okay, so we can maybe stop here just for the questions if anyone has.
We don't have time for
questions. We don't have time for questions.
That's okay, that's okay. It was really interesting because also для нас дуже важливо для підтримки.
It is very important for us and that there are resources such as virtual reality, because some of our educational institutions have already such equipment for simulating virtual reality. I propose to give the floor to our participants, to their questions. Maybe someone would like to speak now. I am giving the floor to Mr. Arya. He is a senior expert from EFU. Many our colleagues have been known him for many years in the improvement qualification system. Ariane shall moderate this short discussion about your first impressions. You can ask questions here concerning the presentations we have heard.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Olena. And really, I'm very happy that you are all here to see also those familiar faces. And of course, we can see from these 3 examples that they are taking place in very different contexts, different countries, different ways of approaching, but there are also a lot of commonalities. I think this is for you because we have people here from higher education, we have people here from FET, we have people here that deal with assessment of work-based learning. So I think that's also true for Ukraine. And I think really very interesting questions about how do we define the standards, how do we use these standards, and what is maybe common is that all these assessments, they are really focusing on going bit by bit. And what I really found interesting, for instance, in the presentation of Omnia, is that assessment is not only at the end. Actually, that's for all those examples the case. Assessment is at the beginning, and is also during the process. So that is, I think, very, very interesting. Also, I think there are a lot of questions about assessors and also the workplace mentors, and I think these we maybe need to unpack more. There was a suggestion, for instance, by Rorion, that these should be supervisors of people. Yeah, okay, they are work supervisors, but what does that mean in terms of hierarchy in the company? Yeah, I mean, they need to be close to the occupation for sure. They need to be people that are dealing with it. So maybe these are things that we can possibly unpack, because also in the system that we last saw, how do they recruit these assessors? How do they make these links? Because they can provide assessors and trainers. So I think that's a topic which we could possibly unpack. Another topic which was very interesting, I think, is that the role of students and candidates in the assessment, because we talk about learning, and learning is about things that you learn, that you make your own. So in the end, the proof that people have learned things, it's personal. And that's very interesting in this Finnish example, where after this first assessment, and I think also we have something like that in Ukraine too. It's called Vredny Control. Vredny Control, it was introduced in that, but we don't know actually if it works or not. Where also this assessment at the start is taking place. So I think there are a lot of issues. So please come with your questions. Also, very interesting is, I think, the IT system that was really to support the assessment and the learning. That was explained by the colleagues from Poland. So if you have any specific questions, please come now, because this is actually a little bit of a possibility for us to shape the event in essence, because as Olga said, we're trying to improve our system of assessment. And I think also very interesting in the case of France, it was about bringing assessment as close as possible to daily practice. So how can we do these things? How can this work in Ukraine, and what can we learn from the examples? Maybe somebody could speak about the Ukrainian reflections on this practice. Could I ask any one of you?
Колеги, можна увімкнути мікрофон і говорити.
Dear colleagues, you can turn on your mic and speak. A very simple approach. If you want to tell something, just tell.
Rodion, he has his hand up, so he will be the first one to speak. Please put your hands up and.
Дякую, колеги. Я тоді, мабуть, буду продовжувати.
Thank you, colleagues. I shall continue in Ukrainian so that, first of all, my colleagues can hear me, because it will be possible now to talk more in essence about this, to have the longer discussions, but in general, all participants from Ukraine would agree with me that the focus on assessment is very important, as Anatoly Garmash has said, that we started talking about this in 2019, still before the war, and we started developing the standards in 2019, and now we can see that the system has been actively developing as concerns vocational standards development and vocational education training standards, and the system of assessment of formal and informal qualifications. And thank you, Alex and Mervi, for their answers to the questions which I has already asked. There is much work in the area of formal and informal training. We know the systemic shortage in our system, that assessors are usually those who are lecturers. So the trainers are assessors at the same time. And as we can see from Mervi's presentation, that Finland is very successful in this, because the employers are involved, and experts from employer side, they conduct assessments. And also there is surveillance at the time of on-the-job learning. And in Poland, Polish experience of assessment of informal education credentials is also interested. We have the standard for professional assessors in Ukraine, but this standard raise more questions than answers. But I think this is not for today's discussion. The questions, the issues which we raise, they are really important, and in essence, we should do everything to understand how to shape our system, but the main thing not to lose trust in assessment results, because this trust must be developed in Ukrainian society. If we lose the trust of our public, then it will take long time to achieve trust again. We must ensure quality of education and quality of assessment. Our efforts must be effective. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rodion. Maybe I can go back to Marek. Marek, maybe you can explain also a little bit, because we did not hear exactly who these assessors are in your system. Can you explain how you find these people, how you prepare them, what is their role? They go to companies, as I understand, or is that a wrong understanding?
Okay, well, we have a certain set of requirements that we have for our use as far as the assessors are concerned. We have two separate categories. We have trainers and we have assessors. And so when a qualification is defined in a national qualification system, it also has to specify what are the expectations for an assessor. And that usually includes the specific education and
or experience,
or both, right? So they have to present the documents to confirm their experience, because they have to be, there's a certain amount of years that they have to be working as experts in the field. If they are trainers, they have to have the specific number of training hours, and they must be able to prove that they've done that. So that's one thing. But we also have our internal system where we try to verify the best we can if these people will be suitable as trainers or examiners, and they also have to learn about our procedures, about our quality systems, and act accordingly to them. I don't know if that's a satisfactory answer.
Yes, and I think we will need to unpack this when we are in Athens to go deeper into who are these assessors, how do we find them, how do we prepare them, how do we support them, and how can we have. But I think one aspect, maybe if I can go back to Alex, this was about bringing assessment close to the real work activities. Yeah. So if I can ask Alex, where is this assessment then taking place? Is this in AFPA centers or in companies? How is this organized? Because also I think the location of the assessment was one of the issues that came through as an issue.
Thank you, Aya. Mainly it is organized inside training center, but not only AFPA, because the French Ministry of Labor accredited all training center that want to lead some training program that leads themselves to the Ministry of Labor diplomas titre professionnel. So mainly it is inside the training center, so we have to reproduce a kind of technical environment that are close as possible to the real, of course, work environment. And that's the reason why I try very quickly to just express that when we define the system in this globally, we have to think about the cost. Because if we want to be as close as possible from the labor market and the company's environment, maybe sometimes sometimes you have to decide that you have to buy, I don't know, machine materials or equipment that are million or billion of euros, I don't know. So it's impossible that training center can buy this environment. So we try to reproduce as well as possible for the all the competencies of the qualification, but sometimes we have to leave some competencies to another assessment method. That's what we said. That's more or less the kind of process I understand from Mervi in Finland as well. It means that we can demonstrate some things if we try to reproduce the environment into a training center. Okay. Otherwise, you can, and it sometimes happens as well in this system. Otherwise, you can deal with a company and use materials and environment of the company for the training for the assessment session. But it's more difficult because if you want to do so, company must have a free environment at the moment of its production. So I have to cut my production because this is the time for assess candidates, not for production. So I have to say, okay, this part of my environment is dedicated for this session, not for my production today. And sometimes difficult. You can imagine maybe as kind of a receptionist at the hotel desk. You can deal with a hotel and try to find place in the reception area in order to make him make it possible, you know, the exam session. But in the whole of the hotel, there's true people that are living in the hotel, very, very close of the candidates, the other employees that are working. So is it the right environment and the more comfortable environment to do to practice and to be assessed? We're not sure. So we try to reproduce these things, all the environment, the area, and the materials in the training center. But sometimes we have to decide to be not so close to the professional environment and imagine what are the other methods we will use to make the candidate express or the way he works, why he works like this, and kind of you know, reflectivity of his own activity, and try to express it to the jury. Could be with a technical interview dedicated to specific or competencies or skills or knowledge. It could be with the questionnaire. It could be with some situations that are less complicated to organize within the training center.
Thank you, Alex. And this is done about assessment methods, which is something that we did not really go into, but I think that is something that we need to look also more into in essence. I think that's really and you raised some important issues about equipment. How can we use it? How can we demonstrate things? Can we use simulation? Can we explain what the process is? I think that is really also interesting to look in. I would like to give one of the colleagues from Ukraine. I see there are a number of colleagues that come from higher education, both from I think from the agency and from also from the university. Because we have only limited time, we are going to discuss these things in essence, of course, and we're going to come back to people. Can I maybe ask Andrei Gojik if he can say something about, okay, we've been talking here very much about assessment, very close to practice in companies, very close, as in the case, for instance, of AFPA, as in the case of the micro-credentials and also of the Finnish VET system. In higher education, to what extent do you think that these experiences are important? Because you also are considering introducing more micro-credentials and assessment of micro-credentials and assessment of competence in higher education. How does this help you? Yeah, can we have here a little bit from you? Is it possible?
Hi, and just for you to notice there are 2 hands up in my screen from Olga and Marek, I think so.
І з свого боку я б хотіла сказати, що в нас залишилося 3 хвилини на цю частину, так що потрібно робити вибір. Ар'ян.
So we have 3 minutes. Can I speak? Thank you. This was a wonderful question. I'm really glad that we, from the operative level, came to the higher level. As I understand, the quality of assessment is really important, that this should be recognized by all participants, of those who provide qualification, labor market, education sector. They should understand that they train those people who are needed for economy and how to provide this assessment. So organization of process is really important, and methodological materials are important, and the methods and practice and theory are important, and implementation of practice is important. So about our experience, all professions are different. Some have more theory, some are more practical. And this is important to confirm for the student that they are capable of implementing their knowledge and skills. This is the case. So those who assess, they need to be formed, they need to be trained, because they have great responsibility. They need to know professional things and also how to manage the matters correctly. Management and control and quality control is really important. When we've prepared our system, we used ISO standard 7024, and the structure, how it should work, the requirements set concerning methodologic and theoretical and practical things, and implementation of tasks during exam, because they can be done differently. And the requirements that are set for all the participants and to the processes, how they are formed, how they are chosen. And the main is 3 principles: professionalism, independence, and fairness of assessment. Transparency is also important. And we used all this. And now micro qualifications are developing. And I'm really glad that we are capable of sharing this experience and to study the experience of others. One more thing about difference between curricula and program can be any program, any curricula, according with professional standards, but the assessment in qualifications, they should be comparable among themselves. We cannot use here different methodology. This is like in school. For example, they study some math rules, for example. They cut apples, they cut pies, but when they come to exam, they need to show that they are able to divide. So the standards of assessment, they should be more prioritized, because one center deals with one issue and other centers deal with different issues, different categories. So these assessments are not the same, and they should be homogeneous. They should be like, they should be comparable. Thank you very much. This is a great comment from Olga. And this is why we started this project. We thank our dear colleagues and we continue our discussions in Athens later on. And I would like to say about Irina Lily question about the contacts, whether we can share the contacts. I would like to say that we will provide cases from Belgium, Ireland, and Greece. And you may see that we have powerful partners in Europe that unite many providers in the education system, and that is why all the contacts, resources of the networks will be to your service. And one of the tasks of this webinar is to show the readiness of all the partners who are here with us. And we have one secret partner, and he is really important. And all these resources and all these partners will be with you, and we will discuss all matters that you will have concerning competency assessment. So we are going according to our agenda. We will have 3 short presentations. ETF is working with Ukraine, but not only with Ukraine. And Yorgos Zezimos is given the floor to tell us about the support of ETF for Ukraine and what cooperation is waiting for us in this complicated context. You are given the floor, please.
Thank you, Elena. Can you hear me well? Yes. Good afternoon, colleagues, or good morning. And it's great to follow the discussion. I had my camera switched off, but I was following from the very beginning. Perhaps it breaks a bit the great discussion you had, which was very technical but very useful and enlightening, with some more, let's say, political part from my side. But I think you will have opportunities afterwards and in Athens to follow up this discussion. I think it's growing nicely. I just wanted to say very few words about the work we do in Ukraine. Pay some attention to the cooperation we have with the country, but with many other stakeholders, countries, institutions from the countries, and you have heard from France and from Poland and from Finland already. There are others, but also to stress the importance of the cooperation with the Vet Provider Association, and that is fundamental for us. So let me start with the work we do in Ukraine and where that takes us and how it's happening. First of all, the ETF, the European Training Foundation, has been working with Ukraine for many years, and that's why it explains also why many familiar faces on the screen today. And really, what we're discussing today, it's much of the evolution of that work, and of course, the latest phase of that cooperation with Ukraine was launched with the Russian invasion to the country, and that's when ETF had launched in cooperation with the stakeholders in the country an emergency package. The aim back then was to help the displaced people, the displaced Ukrainians, in the country and outside the country. In the country to help them follow up online vet courses, but outside the country also to get jobs. And that was the immediate sort of reaction. There was a hub on our website created, and that worked quite well within the conditions of that period. I'm saying it evolved because what you are discussing today, it actually gave the opportunity to ETF and the Ukrainian counterparts to blend the logic of providing a course with the assessment of the competences, but at the same time, the delivery of micro-credentials. And hopefully that would lead to jobs. So it had moved a lot the last 15 months, I would say, and that is to be noted. I really want to thank our colleagues here, the team of Olena, for this event, but for all the work, but also the team of qualifications, Ari and Anatoly are also present. Our focus the last 6 months, beyond what we're saying now, is actually to be part of the work that will take place in the country within the recovery and reconstruction. Recovery in the short term, reconstruction in the long term. And we are working very closely, of course, again, with Ukraine. We had the privilege to meet the minister, to meet the deputy minister on several occasions. We met the officials from the European Commission on several occasions, exactly to make sure that this notion of skills development and the link with the labor market within the new conditions in the country is taken on board early enough. It's very easy in a situation of war to lose these elements. So it's important, and we rely on your support to keep that on let's say, alive and happening. During this period, and of course, you know that in April, there will be the announcement of the Ukraine plan. That is a plan designed by Ukraine. And that will be supported with a facility that is, let's say, the instrument that will direct the funds to support the country in this new process of recovery and reconstruction. And the aim, of course, is that ETF, together with different partners, and I will not list them all now, but I think you have a good picture of the ability of ETF to forge alliances to bring together forces today, but there are more involved. Just to name also international financial institutions, that is crucial. On top of that, we've been working very closely with the vet provider associations. I really want to take this opportunity to thank the colleagues. They will take the floor, I think, on the agenda after me. From EVPB, Theodore Grassos is here with us, but also Julia from EFTA, but also the other vet provider association that is also interested in this discussion, effort. With them, we work very closely. It's impossible to think of any sort of policy measures in the area of skills and human capital development without thinking the providers. Those who spoke earlier on, exactly, they brought in this dimension. What is happening on the ground in different contexts, as you all agree. So the vet provider associations offer this opportunity to bring in their members, the experiences of their members in different countries. And I'm really looking forward to the event in Athens to follow up on this discussion. Thanks again to EVPB for hosting that discussion. I see in the chat that you put you forward some of those elements for Athens. Let's not blow up that agenda in Athens. I think it's important to go deeper and make sure that the results come up. So with this, let's say, few words, let me thank again everybody, especially the Ukrainian counterparts for their time, for their commitment, especially their commitment, and for the cooperation we've been having for all these years. Thank you again.
Дуже дякую, Йоргос. Це моя єдина можливість поговорити із своїм керівником.
Thank you very much. So this is the only opportunity to speak with my top official today in Ukrainian language. Thank you very much for this that you've said about the role of Ukrainian side. And we understand clearly that Ukraine is fighting now, and all the colleagues should fight with us shoulder to shoulder, and our colleagues are under shelling. And we understand that it's difficult to work in this situation, but we believe that we will be able to implement what we've planned, and all 33 participants will be able to come to Athens. And many times we said EVVB after abbreviations, these are our partners, and we would like the opportunity to give the floor to them in order that they will be able to tell us about them, about their associations, and later on they will give us more information during the event in Athens. So I give the floor to Theodor Grosas now. Theodor, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. For some reason, our logo is rotated from what I hear. I see it correctly. I've tried everything. It seems to be like that. So I'm sorry for that. Yes, I'm the Secretary General of EVBB, the European Association of Institutes for VET. Thank you, Yorgos, for the warm welcoming words that you have shared. So we work together with EFTA. We work together with AFPA on this project, but also on other occasions. And within this context, I'm really excited to have all this teamwork with the associations. As EVBB, we are about 380 members at the moment, present in about 60 countries in 3 continents, Europe, Asia, and Africa. Normally what we do also in relevance with the Ukraine, we have teamed up with the Erasmus office in the country. We have run the survey in order for Ukraine to become a member, a full member of the Erasmus program, and we hope that this will happen in the next 1 or 2 years. We hear that the preparatory phase has already begun. And in general, our main goal is to ensure that everyone gets a fair shot of opportunities to vocational education and training. And this is the reason why also we work here together with ETF, AFPA, and EFTA. And also we are very excited that also through our member in Greece, ACME, we will be able to host the workshop, the assessment workshop in March from the 12th to the 15th of March, where we expect about 30-35 participants from Ukraine, but also European partners to be present. Well, what are we going to do in Athens? Today I heard that the list is expanding with all the notes I have kept, that this will be discussed in Athens and this will be discussed in Athens. Hopefully 3 days will be enough. So we are going to focus basically on experiential learning. So we will try to explore what each country is doing. We'll do some practical work all together, designing assessment of competences in order to understand the whole process. So we will focus basically on improving the approaches to assessment of competences with the use of micro-credentials, both in VET but also in adult education. But let me say also at university level. So the joint collaboration and the joint cooperation seeks also to map available EU training resources to the demand of the Ukrainian partners. And this is something that we have to focus on. And of course, we will share ideas, good practices, but it's also important, hopefully we will also have some good time during our cultural activities that we are planning to do in that. I'm sure that ETF is going to share more information on that in the next few days, since we are finalizing the plan right now and also the agenda. And apart from that, we are also very active at the moment in Ukraine in the sense of implementing one of the capacity building of higher education in the country. So what we are trying to do is to create a strong dynamic and supporting training package, mainly used for online delivery of trainings. And for that, we work together with the Ministry of Education, of course, but we also have partners, some of the prestigious universities in Ukraine, like in example, the Kharkiv National University of Urban Economy, the Dnipro University of Technology, the Kiev Medical University, and also other partners. I will not take more of your time. We will have also the opportunity to discuss further when we will be together in Athens. So I will give back the floor to Elena. Thank you very much for having us here today and for allowing us to support you in your course, in our course, I must say.
Дякую, нам дуже приємно співпрацювати з асоціацією. І зараз Джулія Мескіно скаже декілька слів.
Julia will tell us several words. So you have 5 minutes, and then I will reduce my final words to 2 minutes. You are given the floor, please.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Elena. Thank you to ETF for involving us in such an interesting initiative. As representative of EFTA, I'm very glad to be here with you and to support the efforts of Ukrainian colleagues in achieving the results that they are planning to achieve in terms of micro-credentials. The European Vocational Training Association is like EVBB and European network that represents the vocational education and training sector in Europe and beyond. We have a strategy that refers to the internationalization of the education and training through different specific pathways, enhancing the visibility of the providers, involving them in the policy discussion, and supporting them with capacity building actions aimed at providing knowledge and competencies that are pertaining to the internationalization processes. I understand that I don't have much time, and I don't want to take much time because we are all going to meet in Athens during the study visit hosted by EVBB. So I just would like to give you some few information about relevant activities that are developed at the European level, and that might be of your interest because they are open to the widest audience. The European Commission, together with the US government, has established a Talent for Growth Task Force under the EU-US Trade and Technology Council. Why I want to mention this initiative, that it's mainly an initiative concerning exchanges of practices and knowledge between the two different geographic areas of the world. This because there is a sub-theme within this task force that is reflecting on micro-credentials and how the US and EU can exchange in order to improve the delivery of micro-credentials. Be aware that there is a workshop that the OECD is going to organize on this topic of the micro-credentials within the framework of this task force. The workshop is going to take place on the 16th of February in the afternoon. I can share on a later stage the invitation so that you are more than welcome to participate. You will have the opportunity to listen to practices coming from both sides of the world, from different kind of contexts, because the task force involves not only vet providers, but also representatives from the business sector and from the trade union. So it will be very interesting to see all the different perspectives coming from the different stakeholders. Another information I wanted to share, and I passed a lot of links to ETF for you to consult all the information. There is a recent study that has been developed at the end of 2023 on the importance of micro and digital credentials in platform-based gig works. So you can consult it. In the study, there are also best practices coming from other area of the world. So you will have the opportunity to go further and to explore also what countries like Kenya or India are doing in terms of micro-credentials. As a European network for vocational education and training, and as already my colleague Theodore said before, we are involved in EU-funded projects that are also supporting the development of micro-credentials in vocational education and training. I just wanted to raise the attention on one EU-funded project that is called MIC for VET. You will find more information on LinkedIn, and you will have also the possibility to join the group and to participate in the discussion. The MIC for that project has a focus also on quality assurance, and that's why it might be also of interest. So this is in a nutshell some initiatives that can be also of your interest. I really encourage you to consult the links that I passed to ETF. And once again, I want to thank all of you for participating this morning. And I want to thank the ETF, EVBB, and AFPA for working together on this topic. Looking forward to being in Athens with you.
Дуже дякую, Джулія. Я дуже вдячна всім нашим сьогодні колегам, які виступали, за те, що вони настільки чітко притримувалися часу.
Thank you very much, dear colleagues, for following the agenda. And we can end our meeting timely. Quality assurance was mentioned by our colleague, and I would like to say that during our meeting in Athens, we will discuss this issue in detail. So several remarks concerning the next steps. Please, the slide. So we had an overview of the topic and the cases that will be considered. We will have more of them, and based on the results of this webinar, we will send all the materials that were presented today. And also we will send a brief survey, and we will ask you to mention your sphere of interests and the questions you want to raise, and also what needs you have, what you want to discuss in Athens, and also short description how you work in the sphere of competence assessment. This will help us to prepare the agenda in accordance with your needs, and we will share this program with you at the beginning of March. So we organize a trip to Athens. Noblet Media is our partner that organizes this trip. And if you have questions concerning crossing the borders, please contact us. Please, we cannot add other participants. We hope that those who confirmed participation, we hope that they will be able to join us. And we have strict conditions concerning dates. On the 12th, we should be in Athens, and on the 15th, we should leave. And we have two ways how to get to Athens. We will fly from Warsaw or Chisinau, and we will organize a bus to the airport, and please inform Noblet Media what will be the best way for you from which city to fly from. So please inform us about where you will be. So we co-finance together with our partners this travel and also catering, and we will send the links. So I would like to say that we will send all the links, all references that have been shown in the chat in order that you be able to use our materials that we've shared today. Now I see our participants. I would like to ask whether you have some urgent questions or comments that you would like to present. We will have 1 or 2 minutes if you need to ask something. I do not see raised hands. In this case, let me close this webinar. I would like to thank all our colleagues who presented their experience. And I would like to thank all our dear colleagues from Ukraine that were present in the seminar. And I hope that till 31st January, you will be able to send the materials concerning the event that we are going to have. And I now close our meeting. I wish everyone a happy day and a peaceful sky. And let's meet in Athens. Thank you very much. Goodbye. Goodbye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you so much.